So, sometimes people think it's weird that, I'm a bit of a metalhead, but I love Britney Spears. And so let's get into that before I really start the vlog. So this is a really special CD for me, and just kind of looking at it, it probably just like, okay, yeah, it's her copy of Oops. What was that, your first Britney album? Yeah, but it was actually my first CD ever. I'm the kind of person, I really like to make sure that my CDs are in tip-top shape. I still collect them. As you can see, I've got some love marks. If we kind of look in here, she is a little dirty, you know. But my dad always had a really impressive CD collection, and I would listen to some of his CDs as a kid. Like Pat Benatar, Joan Jett. Those were the things that I liked a lot. But Britney Spears was my first favorite artist. That was just mine. Like, I didn't like her because my parents liked her. I mean, they thought she was cute, but she was my first favorite artist. And so this was my first CD ever. And music has always been such a big part of my life. And even though I'm like, more of a metalhead now, I still do love some good pop music. And I feel like no matter what Britney ever does with her career, pop-wise, I feel like she's always going to have a special place in my heart because she was, like I said, she was my first favorite. And I feel like getting your first CD, when you're a big music fan or you're a big music collector, I feel like that's really special. So it's a special album, and that's a big reason why I love Britney so much. And, I did show choir in high school. I love to sing and I love to dance, and Britney Spears was the first person that ever made me want to sing and dance. Normally, I don't like to show lots of collections of things and whatnot. Like, books are one thing because that's what this channel is about. But like, that Britney CD led to this, And I just feel like, like a lot of people, hearing about the terrible things that have happened to her, it's been so wild because she's just been such an integral part of a lot of our childhoods and a lot of our relationships with music. And I feel like a person that has had a positive influence on a lot of people's lives, and she's made a lot of people happy with her music, even people, that don't, maybe that's not their first, ever CD or, big, standout music experience. It's just, she's brought a lot of light to people. And I think that, when we look in hindsight at what she's been through, it's painful. Britney's book is here. The woman in me is in this box. So we're gonna unbox. It's gonna be so exciting. So, gotta rip this. That worked really well. So I hope I can just rip it open because I don't know where my box opener went, which is ironic because all I do, like, my life is boxes right now. Okay, that's a way to do it. Look at her. Look. Ah! It's got like a matte feel to it. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it looks great. So, oh my gosh, guys. Okay, I'm geeking out. So, inside flaps are light pink, but then, look at it. It's a rose. But look at the inside. We've got a great picture. Let's see, do we have any other pictures? I don't think that. Okay, yeah, it's the same picture from the other flap as well. Oh. She dedicated, it says, for my boys who are the loves of my life, and they're not speaking to her right now, is my understanding. Oh my God. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I am ready for this. I'm gonna read this, I'm gonna binge it, pretty much. Oh, and this is gonna be so bingeable because it's a great font, and the spacing is, almost dropped it, but the spacing is great as well. We've got short chapters. Oh, I love nonfiction that's like this. I'm so excited to read this, y'all. So I've hit page 57. This is going literally so fast. Brittany takes some time to talk about her family, and not just like her mom and dad, but like her grandparents and why her mom and dad kind of were the way that they were. So she talks about, life growing up in the South and how the social norms at the time and in that place were just kind of different from what we would expect. She talked about her father's alcoholism and how her mother handled it, and how the way that her mother handled it kind of made it worse for Brittany. She talks a lot about how much she loved her brother. Jamie Lynn's pretty little so far in the part that I'm in, so we're not hearing a ton about her yet. I don't know if we're going to hear a ton about her in general. I don't know how much she's going to talk about her. But we're on page 57. We went through the whole family history. We went through her kind of early years on Star Search and being a Mouseketeer, and now we've kind of hit that point where Baby One More Time's out, and she is all of a sudden super successful and doesn't have to perform at like literal shopping malls. That's a wild thing to think about, that like back in the day there'd be like a concert at the mall, like if you're in a big enough place. But yeah, so it's definitely really fast paced. I think that it was a great choice to start off talking about, her family and stuff and the different struggles that they've been through, because I feel like a lot of people are going to really connect with that. Okay, so we're finally hitting a point in the Zone era where her family's starting to be more controlling. Um, but I just think that this whole passage about the Onyx Hotel tour is like super interesting. She says the Onyx Hotel tour was just rough. It was too sexual for a start. Justin had embarrassed me publicly, so my rebuttal on stage was to kind of go there a little bit too. But it was absolutely horrible. I hated it in the moment. In fact, I hated that entire stupid tour so much that I prayed every night. I said, God, just make my arm break, make my leg break. Can you make something break? And then on June 8th, 2004, I fell on the set of my video for outrageous, got another knee injury, and I had to have surgery. The rest of the tour dates were scrapped. This is crazy. Like, there was that one viral tweet that I like, I liked it and everything. Um, it was like, what was the most horrific and impactful sports injury? And someone said Britney Spears' knee injury. Um, this is something that we look at in her life and we think of it as a turning point for the worse, but this book is kind of showing us that the turning point for the worst has already happened. It kind of happened when Justin broke up with her, and that first red flag when her family set her up for that Diane Sawyer interview and freaked out when she got married in Vegas. So it's just, I've never imagined that this was something that, like, getting that knee injury was ever something that she would have asked for. Feels like we're at a turning point again. I think she's so reflective in this. It's such a short book, and I feel like a lot of times memoirs are too freaking long because people just don't know what's interesting about their lives versus what isn't to other people. Which I don't read them that much, but this is it's quick paced. She's not going through every freaking memory of her life, but she's going through moments that were important to her, moments that we saw in the media, and kind of clarifying, what was really going on in her head and stuff like that. And I think that I feel like her reflections of her past self in particular are really accurate, and it's going to be interesting to see later how she reflects on her current self. She says, I think that um, I think that both Justin and Kevin were very clever. They knew what they were doing, and I played right into it. That's the thing about this industry. I never knew how to play the game. And then she later says, I wasn't manipulative. I was just stupid. And I think that there's something to be said about this idea, that I think she really wanted to believe the best in everybody. I think part of it is just wanting to see the good in people in general, and I think also some of it's just like wanting to be loved. Now we've hit the part where her family trapped her into this conservatorship, and I hate everyone. I hate everybody. I hated them all before, and I hate them more now. So, one thing that she kind of talks about, though, is how she kind of has felt herself in, some of these traumatic moments just almost regressing and becoming more childlike. And I feel like that explains a lot of what we see of her now. And, she's even acknowledging right now, sometimes I trash talk on Instagram. People don't know why I have such anger towards my parents, but I think they were in my shoes, they would understand. I think that a lot of, the way that she is now, I think that there's a lot of complicated reasons for that. I know that she looks a little disturbed sometimes on Instagram, but I think that if we just kind of look at her as somebody that's kind of reverted to almost childlike coping mechanisms in a way, or like, maybe I shouldn't say childlike, maybe like cringy teenage-like coping mechanisms in a way, then it makes more sense, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so now she's talking about performing in Vegas, and one thing that I've always noticed, that basically everybody's always noticed, is after a while her movements just seemed so stiff. And I think some of it was probably just like, before Vegas anyway, like not really caring, because like she's not even working for herself. And she even says in the book, like, if I'm gonna have to work with my father, like, I'll work, but it's not gonna be good. But like, she seemed to really like Vegas. But she said, in the most demoralizing moments of my Las Vegas residency, I wore tight wigs and I danced in a way where I wouldn't move a hair on my head. So everyone who was making money off me wanted me to move my hair, and I knew it, so I did everything but that. That would explain stiff movement, because when you're dancing, every movement that you're gonna make, if you have long hair, it's gonna flip a little bit. And like, if you're gonna do a movement properly, you're gonna have nice hair flippage. So that explains that. And then she continues, when I look back, I realize how much myself I withheld on stage. How much, by trying to punish the people who held me captive, I punished everyone else too. Including her fans, but I would say that she's forgiven. Most of us would pay money to sit and watch her eat cereal if she wanted us to. This is sad. Here, finally. It was time to find God again. In that moment, I made peace with my family, by which I mean that I realized I never wanted to see them again. And I was at peace with that. Girl, good. Like, thank God we got there. Because I've been there. I hate these people. Her family is the worst. I can't. It's like, not like, I feel like I'm like, her family's the worst. Like, it doesn't even sound sufficient. Like, these are despicable people. They're awful. Okay, and here She's talking about Jamie Lynn. I'm working to feel more compassion than anger toward her and toward everyone who I feel is around me. It's not easy. I feel like this is why people feel such a deep love for Britney Spears, because she is so nice. She's so nice that it's painful. Like, if she just said, I hate my family, I hope that they all die, like, I feel like we would all be like, we get it, girl, you're mad. But she's still always trying to be the bigger person. She's trying to at least be understanding towards, her sister who didn't do these things to her, but benefited from what was done to her financially, more than likely. Okay, so we're in the part where she's in the really intense mental health facility, and oh my god. Yeah, that choked me up a little bit. Especially there's one particular part that really, like, here it is. So it's on page 234. I'm probably the least fearful woman alive at this point, but it doesn't make me feel strong. It makes me sad. Um, but yeah, it's like the whole section about when she was in the mental health facility. I mean, she says that time felt really distorted when she was on lithium. But like, it just feels like some horrible fever dream nightmare situation. It's awful. Like, but then she's starting to feel a little hope because one of the nurses showed her about all the Free Britney stuff, which, I don't know, that freaking pisses me off. Out of all of the people at this facility, one person had the guts to show her, what was going on in the outside world, and that people cared about her and people knew that she wasn't nuts. It's just, I don't know. This is like a really emotional book to get through, and it's really hard because like every page you're just pissed off at everybody. Like, so then now we're at this kind of point where she says the first step towards securing my freedom was for people to begin to understand that I was still a real person. And she starts to share more things on social media, and she's talking about modeling clothes on Instagram and stuff like that. And she says, even though some people online thought it was odd, I didn't care. When you've been sexualized your whole life, it feels good to be in complete control of your wardrobe and the camera. And this is something I've always kind of thought about her. And like, I feel like a lot of her Instagram stuff is just a way for her to be fun and silly and in control, because we're talking about a person that's literally not been in control for basically, I would say, all of her adult life. I mean, 13 years is a long time. But even before that, her family had such a chokehold on her, and she was still learning. She didn't quite know how to say no to people yet and things like that. So she addresses that too. So, I finished it. And it's such a quick read. It's, like I said, she knows what's interesting to talk about. It's fast-paced, but still reflective. She does, so the one kind of theme that's kind of embedded throughout the book that I also kind of saw online when people analyzed it, my cat is really playing on its condo right now, if you can hear those little sound effects, is that Brittany's very spiritual, and this whole book is also like a spiritual journey, and so she kind of talks about her spirituality a bit throughout the book, and so that's a thread that weaves the whole thing together. I know some people online that like aren't really as familiar with the writing process when you're like a famous person and you're writing a book. I mean, the thing, one thing that there is to be said is, the way that we talk and the way that we text and the way that we write our social media posts is not the way that we write. So like, we can't undermine Brittany's ability to write something like a whole book. But just logically, she does thank her collaborators and doesn't name them in the acknowledgments. Realistically, she probably had some ghostwriters helping her. That's pretty standard for this type of thing. But the thing is, even though, the language is super simple to read, it's clean, but it does sound like her. Like, it sounds like her voice. Sometimes her Instagram captions, because, we're all like that, right? A lot of us don't, like, edit our social media posts to, like, grammatical perfection. Like, yeah, it could be a little bit rambly because it's Instagram. You're allowed to be rambly on Instagram. And like some of her like little bit of southernisms, I guess, they're still coming out in the book as well. So Yeah, the voice of it definitely, it sounds like her. Um, I was watching Sloane's video over this book, and one thing that he talked about is he said, it's can kind of wonder if anything was cut. Because I remember reading articles about why this book was postponed, and it really sounds like this publishing house had to lawyer up. And I'm sure that, like, she probably has to watch what she says about certain people and whatnot. We know that the book was edited after her divorce. We don't see a whole lot about Hassan. He's really only ever like a supporting character in like a few moments. There isn't like a whole lot dedicated to just him. So, I mean, it could be, maybe like Sloane suggested, this book could have been a lot longer and then things were cut out to avoid, cease and desists or just kind of conciseness and helping it flow in a cohesive way too. It depends. But my hope is that people read this book and understand her better presently. Because right now, presently on Instagram, her behavior freaks people out. I get it. Like, she seems pretty wild when you look at her. But I think that when you read kind of like why she is this way, it makes sense. Okay, she's a newly freed woman. She's an adult woman. She's in her 40s. And she's never really been a real adult before. Like, she's never really been able to call her own shots and not feel bad about it. Or be pushed down for it. So I think that when you read about the stuff that she's been through, if we think that she's a little strange, I think we would all be more than a little strange. And I think it's really devastating to think about, how close she might have been to during her psychiatric hold or, being placed where she was. I feel like, when she says in her book that, it might sound paranoid, but I thought after a while that my family was going to kill me. Like, honestly, I can kind of see why she felt that way. Because, like, that's the only thing that they hadn't done yet. I don't know. I feel really bad for her. But I feel like this book it's going to make us sympathize. It's going to clarify why she is the way that she is now. And I think it's going to, for many of us, reaffirm, why we love Britney. Because she's a sweet girl who's been treated like trash. By everybody, basically. Shout out to Cade. Cade sounds like a real friend based off of, what I'm reading here. I don't know you, Cade, but I like you. Also, we all knew that Paris Hilton was a real one for Britney. So there's that too. I guess the only other thing that I might have expected her to talk about that she did it is I remember she talked about on social media how in her wedding video she could hear some of her friends, her guests that she invited talking smack. I wonder if she just didn't want to address it. Maybe it was too painful, or maybe like that was going to be one of those things where it's like too much legal stuff. Or maybe she wants to repair those friendships. I don't know. Why not? But I almost kind of wondered if she would do that. But maybe she just didn't want to talk about the wedding in general. So that's always possible because she doesn't talk about really getting married much or anything like that. So we don't see a lot of Sam in this book, but he is there. But yeah, thanks for watching. I absolutely think that you should read this book. It is literally so good and it's so quick to get through. But yeah, this was lovely. I'll see you next time. Bye.